Hey guys, this is Jules with True Crime Reactions. Disclaimer. Everything stated in this video is my opinion and my opinion only. And just like everything else in these cases we discuss here on this channel, everything is alleged. So we've been going through the motions to suppress and the Frank's motion information in the Idaho 4 case. I posted a few videos. The links for them will be down in the description box. We are going through these in the order that they were posted. Now, I've decided that going through these next motions to suppress, I'm not going to read the full things in the video. I'm going to be reading the full thing myself as I'm recording it, but I'm only going to leave in the video to be posted the case fact information. When it comes to them citing other cases and things like that, you are more than welcome to click on the links in the description box that go straight to these very public files and read through all of those cases and things yourself. But I really want to try to keep these as short and to the actual factual points as possible. It might take me a little bit more time in editing because on this end I am going through the full document, but to give it to you guys, I want to do it in summary form with also reading straight from the pages, the actual facts. There's going to be a lot of page reading, but there's also going to be a lot left out because it is procedural and things like that. Those are arguments that I feel at least are better understood seeing them happen in action. I know that whenever the death penalty argument was had, that I definitely understood a whole lot better seeing both sides go at it. I'm a more hands-on type person. Sure, I can learn plenty through reading something, but seeing the event happening live, getting into something and actually doing it, that's how I really digest information. So I'm going to go through these, like I said, and I'm going to read the case fact. Now, we did the DNA suppression information. That one's a doozy because there's so much around the frickin' DNA, the IgG, the genetics. It is insane. If you missed that video, again, the description box will have all of the links. It looks like this. So now we're going to go over the motion to suppress and memorandum in support of the Amazon warrants. So before we go through the motion to suppress itself, I wanted to go through the original warrants. Now, we have gone through these before, probably more than once in video form on this channel, but I want to look at them now since we're about to go through some more information that we're getting from the defense so that we can have a little bit of a refresher. Now, this first Amazon warrant was more of a broad warrant. See, it was filed February 28th of 2023, but this warrant was actually served and information obtained before they ever even knew who Bryan Kohberger was. This is Detective Mowry's actual affidavit. This is the page that I always jump to whenever we get these because this is where your base information is going to actually be coming from. And it states that it was on November 26th of 2022 whenever the warrant was approved for it to be submitted. And then on December the 8th of 2022, still way before they would have even known who Bryan was, because we have to remember, the feds are the ones that handed the family tree that apparently had Bryan's information on it in some way, shape, or form over to the Moscow Police Department, and then they went and did whatever they went and did after that. So it was served and the information was received before they ever even knew who Bryan was. Now, if you scroll down here, it just states where it was sent and then the information that it's being asked for. This is serial numbers, not for the actual weapon that they found, because they have no idea at this point where they got it from, because they were also looking at other websites and other businesses and getting information warrant-wise for them as well. So this is just possibilities along with descriptions. And what it seems like they would have wanted is a baseline, everyone's information. And right here is where we get a little bit more detail, where it states, there is probable cause to believe that the property referred to and sought in or upon said premises consists of information for the crimes of homicide in the possession or control of Amazon related to sales of the following items for the period of January 2022, even though there's 3 twos, but we know what it's supposed to say, to present, which would have been November-ish, mid-November, around Thanksgiving time, 2 weeks or so after the crimes. And this is all that it shows. It's not for a person. They want account information across the board. So I would assume this means like any anyone. I don't know if it would have been like just the United States, but it doesn't actually state here. It just says they want account information, order details, payment information, and all customer interaction records. It doesn't state, as far as I have been able to notice, that it's just for Idaho or just for Moscow. You would assume, because it's a college town and people, I mean, we've got plenty of mobile serial killers. I've been digging into a story of like a group of serial killer truckers that are actively working the United States highways right now. So I'm pretty positive this would have been like across the board. So this is where I have like issues with how long it took for them to actually go and get like one for Bryan's information. Now this one was filed on September the 28th, but let's go down to find that magic page that we always need to go and start with. And it shows right here, May 8th of 2023. That's like around the time of the grand jury situation. But why would you wait 5 months after you arrest the person that you claim did this to even grab a personal one? Maybe because his information never showed up on that big, vague one. So that's why I'm like, okay, well, you wouldn't have like already had his information from the Amazon warrant you originally got that had like the broad answers for the people that had purchased that, right? That's why I don't know like what the parameters were, and I'm just assuming it would have been like the whole United States at least. And also, this document right here proves I'm right. Just saying. My big argument when it comes to the IGG information is that a lot of people are claiming, just like the law enforcement people are claiming, that it's not part of the investigation, that it's just a tip. So tips are not technically admissible evidence, and that's the big reason why the state can throw it out and it doesn't actually hurt their case, apparently. But I've been saying all this whole time that that's complete crap, because the feds are the ones that gave Moscow PD that freaking tip, and the feds have been helping with this case from like almost day one, okay? This literally validates that the feds are involved with the active investigation of this case. Whenever this very direct warrant was submitted, it wasn't actually Mowry that got the information back first. It was Federal Agent Douglas that got the actual answer back. Okay. Both of their information was submitted, and Amazon decided to give it to the feds before it gave it to the local police department. So if the feds are the ones that are the primary contact for retrieving the information, how the hell are they going to sit there and claim, oh, that genetic tree, though, that's just a tip, not part of the actual investigative work? That don't make no sense. So again, on May 8th, practically 5 months after Bryan Kohberger's arrest and around the same time of the grand jury situation happening, another search warrant for Amazon was obtained. It was served on May the 8th, and on June 27th, that Fed guy ended up getting the information, and it wasn't until July 5th, okay? Fed dude got it on June 27th. He did not send it over to the freaking Moscow Police Department until July the 5th. He kept that. Didn't care enough to get to it. Did something else with it we don't know about. What? Why did it take so long for it to be transferred over to the lead investigating department? So then we're going to go down to that extra one that we always know that there's supposed to be some additional information for. But on this one, it's all whited out. So all we assumed is that maybe some more of a specific weapon information was in here, that more of Bryan's private information was in here, and that's why it was all whited out. But then we go down to the one that gives some more information, and this is what it shows. It shows that they want information for Amazon accounts from March 20th of 2022 through March 30th of 2022 and November 1st of 22 through December 6th of 2022 for this very specific information, which we're assuming would be Bryan's. It's just whited out. And then it just goes down and just says that they want this info. They want everything, including all accounts linked to a Target account, like a Target store, like the red dot, the red Target circle store, that. So I don't know if like certain targets are Amazon pickup locations. I think some of them might be. I might be wrong on that. I don't know. But that's the only reason why I could think that they maybe like put that part in there. Okay, now we're going to get to the actual motion to suppress. And remember, I'm only going to be reading the actual case fact stuff. Anything that is other case related or policy related that doesn't relate to something directly physically involved in the physical evidence that they are discussing in this stuff, I'm going to be skipping over that in the video. I'm going to be obviously obtaining it on the outside because I have to read the full thing to know what's necessary and what's not. And if you guys want to go through that stuff yourself, all of the links will always and forever be in the description box. Oh, before we get started, who watched that fight last night? That was the biggest rigged scam. Look, I made a little quick video about it in at 2:30 in the morning last night over on my personal channel. A link for that will also be in the description box. What a joke. What a joke. Comes now Bryan C. Kohberger, by and through his attorneys of record, as submits the following memorandum in support of his contemporaneously filed motion for an order suppressing all data found by law enforcement from its search from his Amazon.com account. The motion and documents in support of a Franks versus Delaware hearing are hereby incorporated into this memorandum. The proffer with supportive documentation regarding Franks are filed under seal. For that reason, they are not set forth in full detail here, but instead are incorporated. So I've had a lot of comments saying hurry up and pull these because they don't believe that they were supposed to be public the way they are. And I agree, there's probably more information and names in this than they have been allowing here lately. But it does sound like come Monday is whenever all of the stuff that's needing to be sealed is actually going to be turned in person. At least that's how it's been sounding so far. So maybe this stuff is supposed to be public. I don't know. But just on the safe side, I did go in and print to PDF literally all of them. So if they do end up changing some stuff up on Monday before I've been able to record everything, it's not a problem. Issues. Mr. Kohberger has a privacy interest in his Amazon.com account information protected by Article 1 in the Constitution and the Fourth Amendment. The affidavit submitted in support of the application for the issued search warrant recklessly or intentionally omitted material information. The affidavit submitted in support of the application for the issued search warrant included information that must be excised. All information in the affidavit was gathered because of law enforcement's unconstitutional use of investigative genetic genealogy, thus nothing in the warrant should remain. Okay, I mentioned this in the community tab. I should have just jumped with that, but I'm glad that I waited, honestly, because now it makes more sense to jump it in right here. I have talked about the problem with stuff that is going to end up being most likely considered fruit of the poisonous tree in this case, because if they did illegally obtain Bryan Kohberger's DNA, or his DNA getting on the knife sheath truly was done illegally, since they have stated in court, and Taylor herself, that they believe that it was planted there. Okay, they've never denied that it was Bryan's, but one of their things that they are not being silent about is that the fact that they think that it was planted there. If that is true and the DNA was actually obtained illegally, then yes, everything is fruit of the poisonous tree, and literally every single thing would have to be bye-bye. All right? That's why whenever Don Daniels asked for the search warrants for Bryan Kohberger's apartment for all of the IgG stuff and DNA stuff that was mentioned to be just pushed to the side as they made their decision, I instantly was like, they are going to try to do something with this. There's a reason while they're stating, whenever you're about to sign this warrant, you need to make sure that you're signing this warrant excluding the information about the DNA that I just told you. I know that I told it to you and you're human and there ain't no way in shit you're going to be able to erase it from your mind. It's really going to always be there. But when you're signing your signature, just do your best. That's basically how this entire thing has been. That's why I knew then when we saw that in her report that this was going to be a huge, huge issue. And then whenever Vargas came out and told us about all the loopholes and the way these portals work, and then the state sent the feds to her house, I knew that it was going to be a bigger issue then than I originally thought it was. And it has been the bane of this case. Let's just call it what it is. It's been the biggest elephant in the room when it comes to this case, because we have no clue. The company that was supposed to originally do the DNA was told to stop everything and give everything they had over to the feds. And then all of a sudden there's a lead. All of a sudden they now have the answer. But no one wants to show their work. And that's also been one of the biggest problems in this case, that the defense has been asking for stuff forever now. And originally, one of the biggest hiccups with that is that everything that was needed didn't come from the local PD. None of it. It all came from the frickin' feds. It all came from other agencies that has no obligation to give a hot damn what some county judge orders anybody to do, because they're the federal frickin' government. They don't have to care. And when it came to the profile that they actually used, lo and behold, we find out that it was deleted. And not just that, but the DNA was so minuscule that it's like a miracle that they were even able to do the testing that they claimed that they did in the first place. Because now it can't be repeated. There's no way that there can be like control testing. There's no way that the defense can go in and do this themselves and make sure that they get the same result. There's no room for independent testing. Nada. Nothing. So yes, if Bryan Kohberger's DNA was illegally obtained, then yes, everything is fruit of the poisonous tree. And yes, it all needs to go. And yes, he should have walked out of jail 2 years ago. But that goes both ways, regardless of if he is innocent or guilty. That's the catch-22 with these kinds of situations. I still don't believe that he's the guy. If he is the guy, then I don't see how. He'd have to be having some sort of literal like double life that no one's been able to expose yet, to have the skills that it would need to, I'm just going to say, do this so cleanly. Because let's go back to the actual stories of that day and how apparently no one put 2 and 2 together. There was nothing to trail 2 crime scenes together. You know, latent shoe prints and all. It's just really annoying because we've gone so far in this case and been able to unravel so much, and we don't even really know what's true and what's not. All we can do is what we're doing now. Okay, I've blabbed for way too long. Information gathered about Mr. Kohberger via previous invalid warrants must also be excised. So yeah, they're basing everything. Their basic fight goes to the original one. And his DNA was obtained illegally. Therefore, anything that came from that illegal seizure is null and void, making everything that they did completely null and void. Facts. This is where it's going to get good. Pennsylvania law enforcement, along with officers from Idaho and the FBI, raided Mr. Kohberger's parents' home on December 30th, 2022, and arrested him. At some point, an FBI agent subpoenaed Amazon records belonging to Mr. Kohberger's account. There's the first footnote. And it states grand jury subpoenas. See, around the time of the grand jury subpoenas issued by the government, the feds, okay, have been the subject of a motion to compel. Oh, yeah. Okay, that makes sense. There is an order to compel their production if available to the state, or at a minimum for the state to provide dates of subpoenas. Order on defendants' 4th and 5th motions to compel June 14th, 2024. The state has done neither. So again, this is something that the state should be handing over to the defense, but they can't because they didn't do the work. Somebody else did, and that somebody has higher authority and doesn't have to listen to anything that we say. They say. You know what I mean. The issues in the memorandum are among the reasons a copy of the subpoenas are necessary. It is unclear what the subpoena asked for or its scope. The subpoena return identifies 2 iCloud accounts. 2 different ones? That's actually interesting, but we're not going to talk about why right now. On both December 30th and January 27th, 2023, Amazon responded with records showing Mr. Kohberger's purchases. See, we don't see those. We don't see the responses. And we also didn't see these dates because the one that they did in November was broad scope, as far as we could tell, with no names on it. It wasn't until the grand jury timing that we saw one that was more specific. That's interesting. Perhaps recognizing that subpoenaing Mr. Kohberger's records was a violation of the Idaho Constitution, on April 26, 2023, Detective Mowry of the Moscow Police requested a warrant for the same information, telling the court that an unnamed FBI special agent had located requested information. Okay, so see, remember I said that the Fed ended up getting the actual response from Amazon and that he got it in June, whatever, 23rd, I guess, and he didn't send it over to Moscow until sometime in July, early July. The warrant was amended due to a date error and ultimately issued May 8th, 2023. Oh, so she's saying that they flubbed the paperwork. That's what it sounds like. The affidavit for the warrant was signed by Detective Mowry, which is Exhibit A, probably the same one we just went over. Maybe not. Maybe it'll be different. However, most of the information in the warrant was cut and pasted from an affidavit originally bearing the signature of Moscow Police Department Sergeant Blaker. But according to Mowry, now the sworn statement of Corporal Payne. Those things are very much copy and paste. When we first got that 166-page drop that gave us Blaker's probable cause affidavit, I went in and was flabbergasted because what is the basis of how they believe most of the bullshit in the PCA came about? From their experience, okay? Well, they apparently all have the exact same experience. They literally even copy and pasted those statements. But one thing that was interesting in Blaker's PCA when it comes to Ethan and Xana, and I want you guys to keep this in mind, that when it comes to when they were actually seen at the party, it's only Payne's that says seen between like 9 and 1:45-ish, and then believing that they went home around 1:45 according to Bethany. But Blaker says they were just seen like around 9 o'clock. It doesn't have that additional information. So, just wanted to remind you guys of that. The basic facts Mowry used to support the search beyond the arrest warrant facts were very minimal. Number one, a vague reference that an FBI special agent located an account for Kohberger. Well, that's not the one that we have, though. Like, the one that I showed you guys has the federal agent's name on it. So this has to be a completely different one. Amazon provided order history records regarding customer email brianchristopher1994@gmail.com. How the agent located this was not explained. That's interesting. Investigators know that Amazon holds records for identifying devices that the customers use to access their account, all linked accounts, other items customers have searched, clicked onto, placed in cart, viewed, and saved. Who or how the investigators know this is not explained. Well, we also need to remember they took his Fire Stick, and that is an Amazon product. So maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know. Little information about how Amazon collects and holds data was explained. Then it states, number 4, the time frame March 20th of 2022 through March 30th of 22, which is an odd 10-day period. I would really love to know why that is. And November 1st of 22 through December 6th of 22 were selected, which is odd again, because I don't know why they would have searched for him purchasing something like that weapon after the fact. So there's that too. Argument. Mr. Kohberger has a privacy interest in his Amazon.com account information protected by Article 1, Section 17 of the Idaho Constitution that requires a warrant. So I'm going to assume, because this is going to be getting into all of that procedural stuff, that the majority of this portion of this is going to be about his right to privacy. So I'm going to skim through, and you're only going to hear me talk if it's actually case fact related. As this court is no doubt aware, the third-party doctrine holds that information shared with anyone with whom a person does not have a recognized evidentiary privilege is free for the government to take without a warrant. To put it another way, the third-party doctrine insists as a matter of law that you should entrust your secrets to no one. Idaho has taken a somewhat unclear approach to the third-party doctrine. In State versus Mubita, the court permitted protected health records to be provided. Now, do you understand why I'm not reading the entire thing? Your HIPAA records and your Amazon account are anywhere near the same exact thing, which is why, just wanted to show you guys an example, why I'm also not going to be reading through every little bit of this. And I want, like, specifics. I don't want constitutional rights. If the IgG information really legitimately came from illegally obtained DNA, then this Amazon warrant would be useless anyway, because it would have to be considered fruit of the poisonous tree, anything that came from it. So his right to privacy when it comes to that is null and void, because the base answer would be it was illegally obtained as fruit of the poisonous tree and it's got to go. So it's like she's just wanting to kind of like cover all their bases, which I totally understand. But again, that's why I'm not reading through like everything. I'm just not going to do it. Okay. Idaho is not the only jurisdiction to have trouble with the third-party doctrine. The United States Supreme Court has refused to apply it both to the search of cell phones and the use of cell sites. Okay, see, but that's not technically Amazon. That would be part of their cell data argument. See, look, now they're referencing a case that talks about that decision noted distinctions between garbage and telephone calls. See, that's what I'm talking about. They're not talking about telephone calls in this. They're not talking about tapped phones or anything like that in this. They're talking about his Amazon account. And see, now they're bringing up more HIPAA stuff and disclosing HIV status. That has nothing at all to even do with this case. Okay, now she gets to like an actual fact, because this case is not about bank records, which again, they've only pulled like, I think like Google payments, maybe something like that for Bryan. I can't even think of any financial records that we've seen. Now, obviously the feds have done their own thing, plenty of it. So they probably did do it, but Moscow maybe hasn't ever gotten anything. This case is not about bank records, but purchase records from an online company. From the standpoint of the Fourth Amendment, one's behavior with Amazon.com can provide a massive amount of information about a person's private life, such as your name, address, searches, and recordings when you speak to the Alexa voice assistant. It knows your orders, content you watch on Prime, your contacts if you upload them, and communications with it via email. Meanwhile, when you use it, its website cookie trackers are used to enhance your shopping experience and improve its services. Yeah, I know, you can literally think of something and then all of a sudden you're getting an ad for it. Like, it can literally all read your mind. It's really scary. At the same time, Prime Video and Fire TV information about what you watch and listen to can reveal your politics, religion, culture, and economic status, says Fielding. If you use Amazon to store your photos, a facial recognition feature is enabled by default. What? That's wild. Amazon promises not to share facial recognition data with third parties. I mean, cool, but people get hacked literally daily. So, okay. So this is just going to go on and talk about how Amazon is horrible at, just having way too much data on you, which, most of us already knew. And by the way, whenever you guys see ads, they're not based off of whatever I am looking at. They're based off of y'all's interest. Because, I'll have people make comments about, ads that play, and I'm like, well, what have you been looking at? Because it ain't got nothing to do with me, and I just want to, make sure y'all know how that works. And as for Idaho, there can be no doubt that Article 1, Section 17 requires a warrant before law enforcement can access Idahoans' online records. Amazon.com, like phone companies, is heavily regulated and guarantees its customers' privacy. Okay, but the way the justice system works is once you're in jail and you're accused of something like this, you give up a lot of that with the signature from a judge. For these reasons, this court should find a warrant is required to access such information. Thus, the FBI subpoena gathering the information from Mr. Kohberger's account violated his rights, and its result must be suppressed. So she's saying there was no actual warrant for this? But that's the only way. How did they go in there and get the information then? Would they have had to have gotten his password and stuff? I'm not understanding. How could they have gathered it? See, they didn't state how. Oh, that's the problem. That's the problem. They're not claiming how they got that information, and she's not seeing an actual warrant from the feds. I get it. Okay, I get it. The second part of the argument says the affidavit submitted in support of the application for the issued search warrant recklessly or intentionally omitted material information. So let's see what they're actually claiming was his information that wasn't apparently omitted. For a search warrant to be valid, the judge issuing the warrant must rely on an affidavit or affidavits sworn to before the judge or by testimony under oath and recorded that establish the grounds for issuing the warrant. Any discrepancy between the items for which there were probable cause and their description in the search warrant requires suppression. A criminal defendant may challenge the veracity of an affidavit used to obtain a search warrant. Upon a preliminary showing of a warrant's deficiency, the defendant must prove by a preponderance of the evidence that intentional or reckless falsehoods were included in the warrant affidavit and were material to the magistrate's finding of probable cause, or that material exculpatory information was deliberately or recklessly omitted. Another Brady violation? Or is this the same one that we were already learning about in the beginning of the case, because they told us that there was issues like this already? In this case, law enforcement either intentionally or recklessly omitted exculpatory evidence as to almost every facet of its affidavit for this warrant. Thus, it will require suppression. The proffer required for a Franks hearing is filed contemporaneously under seal. So the very specifics of what she's stating here are going to be filed under seal. They're doing the way that I need to do whenever I come out and talk about my theory. They're going around it and being indirect while being direct at the same time. All of the actual facts that they know to be lies are going to be brought in, I guess, on Monday and sealed. The proffer asserted applies here. In addition to the proffer, the affidavit for the Amazon search warrant did not explain to the magistrate that federal agents had been talking to Amazon and issuing subpoenas, and that was how they had gathered information for the affidavit. Mowry intentionally failed to disclose the illegal means by which investigators had located the Amazon information, meaning that Megan Marshall is probably going to also end up in the hot seat at some point too, maybe. Okay. Now, this next part states, the affidavit submitted in support of the application for the issued search warrant included information that must be excised. Where information in a warrant was obtained via a violation of the Constitution, Idaho courts excise that information, and it does list cases like State versus Johnson from 1986, State versus Bunting from 2006, and State versus Butterbog from 2002, where I'm assuming those exact situations happened. All information in the affidavit was gathered because of law enforcement's unconstitutional use of IGG, and thus nothing in the warrant should remain. Like I said, it seems like every single one of these are pieces of fruit that were plucked from a very poisonous tree. It's going to be interesting to get all of these details. Mr. Kohberger has argued in a separate motion that the genetic genealogy investigation in this matter was done in violation of the Constitution. Additionally, he argues there would be no investigation into him without that original constitutional violation, aka most likely the exact scenario that Vargas told us about, where they have special loopholes where they can go in and access people's information, even ones that stated that they did not want to share it. So they know how to just break all the laws they need to keep people safe. So it's just great. It is not that the results of the IGG sped up the investigation. Instead, they focused the investigation on Mr. Kohberger, a person whose only connection to the case was his mode of transportation and the shape of his eyebrows, two identifications of little to no value. Literal fact. Literal fact. That's all that they've got. But also, I've seen guys with bushier eyebrows. There were guys with bushier eyebrows right outside of the frickin' King Roadhouse at the time of the original crime timeline. Let's not forget that one. And this is also pretty true. It didn't speed up the investigation. It gave them something to tunnel vision on whenever they literally were going nowhere. And it's just the fact that all we've heard this entire time is the feds are the ones that illegally obtained all the info. That's wild. But we sort of expected that anyway. That's why they don't want to show their work. If they were so proud of what they did and they really think that they did it the right way, why not share it? Why be so secretive? Stupid. As the Idaho Supreme Court has explained, while the initial burden in showing a factual nexus between the illegality and the evidence, the state must show it would have been discovered anyway. Fact. Straight up fact. State v. Moss from 2022 must have had a similar problem. The state cannot make this showing. True, because the feds are not showing their work like we've said 18,000 times. Without IGG, there is no case. Fact. No request for his phone records, surveillance of his parents' home, no DNA taken from the garbage on his driveway in a gated community under a garbage collection ordinance, because the IGG analysis is the origin of this matter. Fact. If they were not given that small little genealogical tree, they would have never, ever, ever gone to Pennsylvania. And that's just a straight up fact. Everything in the affidavit should be excised. And then it states, information gathered about Mr. Kohberger via previous invalid warrants must also be excised. Separately, the information gathered via the various other warrants should be excised for the reasons set out in the other motions to suppress. And we got plenty to do. We're not going to be bored anytime soon. Conclusion. Mr. Kohberger requests this court suppress all evidence obtained by police via the subpoenas and warrants that permitted them to search his Amazon account. As explained above, a warrant was required to search this account, and the warrants used lacked probable cause as written, given its heavy reliance on conclusions reached by law enforcement without the details necessary for the magistrate to draw its own conclusions. And because the warrant omitted exculpatory information and information that put into question the reliability of the facts upon which it relies, and finally, because the affidavit relied on evidence gained in violation of the Constitution, all in violation of the Fourth Amendment and Article 1, Section 17. Okay, so yeah, see, filed understood with the court 11/18. We're not there yet. But like we said, they said they were going to be handing some stuff in personally. So my original thought still stands. The privacy stuff and all of the sub arguments, I get that they're covering all of the bases, right? She's got to do her job. But the main fight is that it is fruit of the poisonous tree because of the illegally obtained DNA. So I want to know what you guys think about this one now that we've gone through the two warrants that we did see, knowing that there's other ones that are supposed to be there that aren't. But I'm wondering exactly what they did use for the grand jury and to get all the information in the first place if they're not actually filing warrants. If there's no actual paper trail that the feds actually used, does that mean that they can just crack our accounts with some sort of program and just go in there and look around anytime that they want to without ever even getting permission to do so or anything else? Because that's sort of what it sounds like. How else are they doing that? Unless there's some hotline they call, some spy that they have inside of Amazon that can just pull your information up anytime some fed from anywhere gives them a call. Is that what they have? Some sort of Amazon freaking spy? Because that's the only thing that makes any sense for why they would have a whole bunch of his Amazon information prior to there ever being a warrant. But I've also wondered, judges are literally just signing off on something that somebody is telling them about. It doesn't really matter that they're saying it under oath or they're testifying about the information in the actual warrant under oath. People lie all the time. But the judges don't have to ask for the physical evidence of everything that they're being told by the police. They just, okay, he said so he did it with his hand over a Bible. It must be fact. I just don't understand how some of this can just pass the buck so much. It's really disturbing. But that's it for that one. The next one is the apartment. And like I mentioned very angrily in this video and how I have talked about before, that one is where Don Daniels asked for them to exclude the information about the IGG whenever it came to them making a decision on approving the warrant or not. And that's a huge issue, and it's been a huge issue. And I've been wary of her from the very beginning, and lo and behold, look who got a freaking promotion. So beautiful. Seriously, how many other cases has Don Daniels flubbed up? Because not only is she asking, for the warrant to be signed without the IGG being thought of, but she also misplaced some DNA evidence information for 10 days. and didn't take the little 10 to 15 minute drive over to go and put it where it has to go. She just waited until Ann Taylor showed up at Bryan's apartment and then handed it over. All very unprofessional. But again, that's who gets promotions these days. But again, that's it for this one. Let me know what you guys think about all of this down in the comments. This one definitely went a little bit longer than I intended it to, but the apartment one is going to be interesting. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments about all of this so far. If you like the way that I present this information and give my opinion, please don't forget to leave a like on the way out. Subscribe to the channel if you were not subscribed already. And please don't forget to make sure that your notification bell is set to all so you don't miss any of my rants, reviews, reactions, updates, or deep dives. See y'all.